One day before the new Texas Heartbeat Act goes into effect, it's already facing several legal challenges.
The new law restricts abortions after a fetal heartbeat is detected, which can be as early as 6 weeks into a pregnancy. It allows anyone who aids in an abortion after that point to be sued.
KXAN's Avery Travis live at the state capitol with more on a brand new ruling from a judge in Travis County that will block some of that litigation.
Over the years, countless protests have taken place on the steps of the Texas Capitol building. But tonight at midnight, the most controversial law, or one of the most, is set to take effect. And that's why some Texans say they're trying to get ahead of it, filing lawsuits of their own against the lawmakers who passed the Texas fetal heartbeat bill and even the state itself.
As a lawyer who often represents survivors of sexual assault, Michelle Teagle doesn't want to limit the resources she provides her clients when they're in crisis.
But the chilling impact that will have on women and survivors, and even being willing to pick up the phone and ask for help.
There will be potential for dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of lawsuits against not just abortion providers, but also to the everyday person, whether it's a lawyer or a counselor or a rape crisis center.
Jennifer Eklund represents Teagle and two others, asking a judge to consider the constitutionality of the Texas Heartbeat bill and protect them from being sued in the meantime. They're particularly worried about efforts by a group called Texas Right to Life, which set up an online anonymous tip form for Texans to report any potentially illegal activity under the new act.
This heartbeat is a sign of life. We as Texans are responsible for protecting that life.
Texas Right to Life says their goal is not to target any women who may be seeking an abortion. They say a ruling by a district court on Tuesday only stops them from suing Eklund's three clients.
Really, we're just watching to make sure that abortionists follow the law, that they are not going to kill any preborn babies once the heartbeat is detectable.
But the plaintiffs who filed these cases say they're worried about a broader impact.
And the trickle down that I'm most worried about are the women and the girls who are going to be afraid to even access that care.
The judge's temporary restraining order only lasts until mid-September when there is a hearing scheduled. And this ruling is limited to these three cases. But right now, ongoing at the federal level, a group of abortion providers, including Planned Parenthood, have asked the U.S. Supreme Court to consider blocking this law and blocking it from enforcement, because they argue the law would essentially overturn the precedent that was set by Roe versus Wade. Now, the court has asked for a response from the Texas Attorney General's office, and that was due just over an hour ago. So we could be hearing a decision, if there is one, any minute now or any time tonight, and we will keep you updated. From now, reporting in downtown Austin, Avery Travis, KXAN News.
Avery, thank you. Some Texas lawmakers say they are also concerned that the rollback of drive-through voting locations will have a disproportionate impact on women throughout the state. Senate Bill 1, which is now on the way to the governor's desk, would essentially ban 24-hour polling locations and drive-through voting sites. House Democrats who fled Texas in opposition of the bill say the legislation is simply another form of voter suppression.
60% of those who use drive-through voting were women. And that makes sense because women are caregivers, may have somebody in the car that they're caring for, may have children in the car. And so that was an innovative issue that it made it easier for women to vote. That has now been gutted and taken away.
Texas Republicans say criticism of the bill's impact is being exaggerated. They argue that Senate Bill 1 adds an extra hour of early voting and restores integrity of future elections.